What's going on, guys? This is the Forward Sports Media Podcast. We're at episode 10, baby.
Episode 10, double digits.
That's what I'm talking about. That's consistency all day.
That's what I'm talking about.
Excited. We've got a lot to talk about, more than really ever, in the sense that we just finished the Las Vegas Challenge.
The season's here. We've had some excitement already this season. What a tournament.
Absolutely amazing to watch.
Yeah.
All around, just like it is always just wildly exciting for the first event, but this event in particular was just electric.
Oh, it really was. And we're going to touch on a lot of different things that happened in the tournament. We'll spend most of our time talking about the Las Vegas Challenge. Thomas has compiled some nice stats for us, and we'll talk about some of the matchups that happened, some of the things, the exciting things that happened in the tournament, and even some of the disappointing things that happened in the tournament.
Definitely. We'll go over some things residing around the tournament, such as Jomez coverage. Let's talk about how that particularly went. Trey brought an interesting tweet that was sent out by a certain player that we'll discuss.
Yeah.
Trey will go through his new disc approvals as usual, and then we'll finish it off with Foshi's Fun and Games. So let's just get this started. So Calvin Heimberg just absolutely takes it down at the last minute.
Sneaks in and takes the win in MPO over KJ USA.
Man, I hate it for KJ.
Gosh, he played such a good tournament until the end.
It's kind of like a very mini version of the Portland Open.
Yeah, a little bit. And he almost brought some fireworks after going OB and then almost throwing in after that. But it wasn't quite enough. He winds up double bogeying on hole 18.
Which you might as well give it a full-on run.
Oh, I mean, absolutely.
Why not?
You have to.
Yeah.
He needed that to force a playoff.
Second place and was it tied for fourth place at the very end? If you're not first, you're not first. You have to go for it.
You're last, in fact.
Yeah.
Is what Ricky Bobby would say.
Oh, yeah.
But,
so
yeah.
Calvin, I say feels unexpected, but it's never unexpected with Calvin. I feel like he's always just on your tail.
Right. I mean, absolutely. He's always around. He's one of the most consistent golfers in the game, and he produces every single week that they have a tournament. And so it was impressive to see him take this one down, especially after, I think it was hole 9, if I do remember correctly. He took a double bogey on hole, is that right? On hole 9?
You're referring to Calvin's score?
Yes, Calvin's score. So here, I'll pull up some live scoring here. So it was on hole 7, the short par 4.
Correct.
He goes out of bounds twice and takes a 6 on the hole. And that seemed to be like what we thought. They even said on coverage the door was closing on Calvin at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Ian said that the door was still creaked. There was a crack open still, and he just kept on opening and opening and opening.
Right. Yeah.
Victory.
At that point, you said that's hole 7.
Yes,
hole 7. Takes the double bogey. He went from being 1 behind Kevin to being 4 behind Kevin. Proceeds to be 4 behind, and then slowly but surely between hole 8 and the end of the tournament, he creeps up little by little and ends up beating KJ on hole 18. I was going to say, Calvin made a note on what I believe was the end of Friday. So Friday evening, he mentioned, him being on chase card, and he said specifically he needed to be within 3 or 4 strokes going into the last round to have a chance. And he was 3 strokes behind going into the last round. So Calvin really did call it.
He knew what he needed. He knew exactly what he needed, and he got it done. That's what top professionals do. That's what premier athletes do. They go out and say they're going to do something, and then they do it.
Yeah, and Calvin, of all people, he's just absolutely nuts at putting. He's just got that long, tall, stature to him. He's got just a really long arm as a lever to be able to absolutely rip some long putts. And he was crushing it, putting the pizza in the oven.
I was going to say, he was tossing that pizza in the oven.
So just as a note for Calvin, what do I have here? Calvin in particular, throughout the event, I scraped all of the data, I did a little analysis real quick, and I noticed Calvin was only leading over Kevin Jones for 2 holes in the entire tournament. Not particularly like tied, doesn't count in this. Only leading over Kevin.
Two of the 72 holes.
2 of the 72 holes. It was hole 10 in round one where Calvin proceeds to take a double bogey, and Kevin takes a birdie for a 3-stroke swing, and now he's 2 strokes behind Kevin. And then back again on hole 18 of the last round.
Hey, he made it work.
He did exactly what he had to do to get it done. So to take that lead on the last hole, I mean, Calvin gets a fortunate inbounds, just being right there over the cart path.
Yeah.
And Kevin Jones going into the water early and has to take it back short.
Yeah, I mean, that was the difference in the tournament was hole 18. That's what creates such a amazing tournament. Even last year at this tournament with Drew and Gannon, just for there to be like everything on the line. Last hole, you've got to throw your best shot. You've got to do everything you need to do to win the tournament. And that's when you see the players show up.
Yeah.
Calvin Heimberg, 2 years ago, people wondered if he could, win the big one. And now you have to say he's in the top 3.
He is definitely there.
In terms of clutch. He won 2 playoffs, I think, last year. I know he beat Paul McBeth in the playoff at Jonesboro.
Mhm.
And I mean,
another thing is Calvin was 8 strokes behind Kevin in round 2. So just in general, if you're out there playing a tournament, I mean, obviously none of us are Calvin, but anything is possible. You can be far behind.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't believe Kevin was in the lead at the end of round 2 and 3.
Yes, round 2.
And so Kevin was throwing hot that day in general, but to be that far behind the guy that ends up leading and you still beat him, anything's possible in this day and age. And
oh yeah, absolutely. Shout out to this course, but the courses, the Millennium and the Innova courses, they did a fantastic job of creating parity.
They made ball golf courses fun to watch on coverage.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I thought that the wind created a nice little extra wrinkle. I mean,
oh my gosh.
I mean, yes, extremely difficult to play in extreme amount of wind, but you saw that people had success in it. I mean, the Clash guys, James Proctor and Scott Withers,
lead card after round 1.
And even Scott Withers into round 2 stayed on lead card.
Scott played amazing last year. He was second last year, wasn't he? Was it second or third? He was up there up top. He always finished good West Coast.
Yes,
he was the one that told me that originally.
Yeah, he always finishes strong on the West Coast. I don't know exactly where he finished last year, but he did have a strong showing. Definitely. And I mean, it's exciting to see these guys with new bags play really well. I mean, you saw Proctor, you saw Withers, you saw at points in time other golfers. I mean AB, one of those guys, and we'll talk more about AB later. But it was an exciting tournament overall. You saw some really awesome scores. You saw a lot of up and down, and ultimately you saw Calvin Heimberg take it down, which was super exciting.
I love Calvin. He's just so fun to watch.
Yeah, and so on the FPO side, Katrina Allen
dominated.
Absolutely.
It was beginning to end.
Absolutely. And her worst round was by far the 4th round. She shot 10 strokes worse than she did in round 2 and still won by 4 strokes. It was incredible. It was one of the best FPO finishes that I've seen.
Yeah, she was leading. She had the hot round 1 and 2. Was only barely behind Ella Hansen as the hot round for round 3. Ella Hansen shot a 52 and Katrina shot a 53. And then the final round, like you said, that was definitely her worst shot, much further down the leaderboard, and still came out on top.
By 4 strokes.
Which is nuts to shoot what really feels like a terrible round 4, and still you're winning by 4.
It was unreal. She had a 7-stroke lead on Missy Gannon going into the last round, and actually, it was even more than that. It was a 9-stroke lead. Yeah, it was a 9-stroke lead on second place Missy Gannon.
Right.
And to see her she was able to essentially coast and play very safe golf going into this final round.
Right.
And she even did it with a little bit of, I wouldn't say controversy, but a little bit of some issue on the course. I don't know if you got to watch much of the FPO coverage.
I watched a decent amount of it round 1 and 2 and didn't get to watch as much round 3 and 4.
Okay. So I don't remember exactly what round it was. But there was a point where she was throwing a shot, and I mean, it was a beautiful shot, and it was one of the short par fours, and it looked like she was going to have a really good opportunity for an easy eagle. And then as it's going across a cart path, you see a golf cart sitting right there on the cart path, right in the line of the shot. She hits the golf cart and goes OB.
You were telling me about this. I didn't remember that.
Yeah, and so that, I mean, cost her several strokes.
That's one of multiple things that we'll talk about today on just that there's a lot to be I say a lot to be desired. It stinks that there are two particular things, kind of two and a half that we'll talk about today that
Yeah.
like two that are avoidable.
The third one, not so much. But
Right.
one other, like, we're not going to get to dive too much into FPO,
Hmm.
but one other, I think, subplot and terrible pick by me. Uh, Evelina Salonen missed the cut and
Right.
played absolutely abysmally rounds one and two. She missed the cut. I mean, she shot super well in the last round,
Yeah, round three she shot a 991 rated round, so that was
too,
pretty solid.
but 917 before, and oh, they took the
They
right.
did take that. This is one of those things that I was telling you about is the PDGA has dropped the ratings from round one more than likely due to just the insane amount of wind.
Interesting.
And so we had seen that rating as like a we'll call it like an 881, I believe it was.
Yeah, it was something. It was in the 800s, which is like
For somebody of her level, unheard of.
and it's just so. My thing with that and with her in particular is what is it going to take to get her to move past these putting woes and take that next step in her
I'm
game?
just going to take whatever Garrett Gurthie finally did to get a consistent odd putt. Like Garrett can putt,
Yeah, he
but
made
he's
some.
not. But he's not a top tier putter.
No, but his putt is serviceable.
Oh, totally. But that's come a long way.
Oh, absolutely. So maybe we see Evelina work with Garrett. They're on the same team. You know, they could work together some to maybe
Definitely.
figure some things out. But
He
that's,
just needs a little double G craft jerky and she'll be fine.
hey, whatever works.
So let's talk about Barella.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
High expectations for Barella.
Well, especially after the way you saw him play round one and two.
I mean, just crushing it.
Yeah, he played fantastic, was fighting for the lead pretty much the entire tournament. And then we get to round four, hole 10, end of a course. Um, I mean, it's a shot that is perfectly in AB's wheelhouse.
Right.
And he threw a fantastic shot.
Which I mean, that par four is a stock Heiser shot.
Yeah, I mean, it's his bread and butter. Who throws a stock hyzer better than AB?
Nobody.
I'll wait.
Anybody?
Anybody?
Nope.
Okay, good. AB throws that shot better than anybody else in disc golf. And so when you see him throw a shot further than anyone else can, you're not surprised. But what was surprising was seeing what was either a volunteer or a staff member
Right.
who had a rangefinder. It looked like he was shooting distances to
Right.
figure out how far they were throwing. Obviously in the way of the shot, winds up getting hit in it looked like the leg,
Yeah.
and the disc proceeds to go into the bunker out of bounds.
Which is nuts to be standing of all places right next to the bunker, but inbounds. Like, if anything, stand in the middle of that bunker. Like,
Right, and that I totally agree with that. My one caveat, and like this isn't really a good excuse, but 80 to 90% of the field isn't even thinking about throwing as far as AB can.
no.
And so for 80 to 90% of the tournament, they're probably both the cameraman and the volunteer or the guy with the rangefinder were probably in a perfectly fine position.
Right.
But Anthony Barella and even Kevin Jones, Calvin Heimberg,
You've got just a bunch of bombers.
They-
Eagles on the
Yeah, all four of those guys just absolutely crush. And so you have to have
And
the
I'm
where
pretty sure all of them did get that far.
maybe not Kevin.
Maybe
I
not.
think Kevin was a little bit shorter than the other three, but all three of them, like the other three guys,
Right.
absolutely bombed. And so you have to have the wherewithal to understand who is on the lead card. Okay, it's four of the top 10 drivers in
Right.
all of disc golf.
We should
Okay,
probably
let's
reposition.
back up a little bit.
And you see this frequently in coverage is the catch can going and it's going behind them. And like it's always mentioned in commentary, oh, that's a really far shot when the catch cam is,
We've
too short.
we've got to back the catch cam up because that's happening way too often
Right.
these days.
And the catch cam was in an odd spot. Like if you're not aware of where the disc is in that moment and making adjustments to your position, you're not staying in a good spot to know where it's at to begin with. You have to
100%.
think this person is sitting there, just watching the people throw, maybe not even watching the disc. I don't know what the before was. And we'll make a clear note. We know this person did not do this on purpose.
Oh yeah,
There's no shame for that person. He's probably where he's been told to be, right next to the cameraman to cause as little like variance in where people are.
100%. And you could see like they showed a replay of it after, and he is absolutely destroyed by the.
Mortified.
Yeah, he hates that it happened. So there was no ill intent there.
But
There's
let's talk about what happens the moment that happens is AB, and this is an AB to Calvin comparison, like his score compared to Calvin
yeah,
as it goes on. Leading into that hole, he was uh, Barella was 2 strokes ahead of Calvin. After that, he proceeds to be 1 stroke ahead of Calvin. After the next hole, in which I believe he goes in bogeys and Calvin takes a birdie, he's now one behind Calvin. A couple more just like it. Now he's two behind Calvin. I mean, it just precedes the rest of the event.
yeah, it stockpiles to a point where he winds up losing 8 strokes in 8 holes to lose by 6.
Yeah. Oh, here it is. I was looking at the wrong -2, but yeah, it's to -1 to 0 to 1 behind, 2 behind, 3 behind, 5 behind, 6 6, and then ends up 6 strokes behind to end it.
Yeah, I mean it was
Hit the meltdown.
it was a meltdown. You saw the way that he reacted after the shot happened, and he was visibly frustrated, slams the disc into his bag, and from that point on it really feels like he's trying to force the issue. You saw a ton of discs get turned over. He lost all sense of touch with his shots. And I mean, you saw him just plummet down the leaderboard. I think he finished tied for 8th.
Right, which he plummeted in a similar way to Eagle. Couldn't hold it together at the end. He was playing poor in comparison to Eagle. Like for me to say it's poor play is not fair, but
Well,
like it is compared to how Eagle can play.
well, and it was just inconsistent. There would be a great shot mixed with it, and then the next tee he'd throw out of bounds. He just couldn't keep it together. It was like he was spraying it all over the course a little bit relative to what Eagle normally does. And so,
I hate to see it because honestly, Barella was killing it the whole time, and he was showing off why we're so excited to see Barella playing disc golf, like
oh man,
at the level that he will be this season.
yeah, and he's still even figuring his putter out. I mean, brand new bag. He like it definitely seemed like he missed some putts that he would normally make, and so I think this is just the springboard to a great season for him.
Agreed.
Probably picking up a tour win or two.
I hope so.
But was this the biggest issue on the course?
Trey, we've talked about two absolutely terrible things happening.
But the worst thing that happened,
Tell me.
that goose.
Who-
And we're not talking about Aaron Gossage.
No, we're talking about the goose on the course when Beth is throwing. To start the wider discussion, how do they let the geese on this course? Where did they get their media pass?
I don't think that one even had a media pass.
Yeah, that's
I was mortified. I honestly, so I wasn't. I was talking to my wife about this earlier, but I wasn't particularly watching at that moment. I think we had something else going on, and I was listening, but I wasn't like intently watching the coverage. And by the way that Philo reacted, I thought Macbeth had killed the goose. And so I watched the replay. I was like, oh
It
no.
did hit it pretty. I mean, any Macbeth
Well,
shot is going to hurt, but
oh yeah, but thankfully it was at the end of the fight. The goose definitely jumped
yeah,
and got
he
it got it
he
turned
was going to be
around.
filing a lawsuit with Macbeth.
Oh man, it was
Peter sued who?
oh
So
man.
let's talk about this cut line. Not every tournament has a cut. This is something that I think over time will start to be introduced more as we lead
Yeah.
into what many events I bet will lead to be more 4 round
Yes.
as time progresses.
A lot of the most, if not all, the 3 round tournaments do not cut.
Right.
But the 4 rounders are about 50-50, I would
Yeah.
say now. But yeah, the average rating for making the cut was 1020.
Yeah.
That is insane.
It's nuts golf. If we want to talk about how much better this sport is getting day by day, that is what we're talking about.
Now, I will say that that stat was from when we had the ratings from round one.
That is
So there
true.
could be some variation there.
That's a
I
very
am
fair point.
curious about those round one ratings, and we'll talk about that more later. But um,
So you mentioned some notable players who missed the cut. Chris Clemens.
yeah, Clemonade, Isaac Robinson,
Hmm.
my pick for the World Championship. He's got to pick it back up.
He does. He was in my fantasy draft.
Oh,
I was relatively sad. I thought he was going to really do some work for me. He was like my, I say secret pick, like nobody had picked him yet, and he was a little bit farther down in the ratings list. I just feel like he's on the rise, and so I took him, and I was real disappointed.
yeah, it doesn't really play to the Vegas courses don't really play to his strengths necessarily.
Yeah, he's not
But
necessarily a long bomber.
right, but we'll see him turn around during the
We
year,
definitely will. Albert Tam,
especially at Worlds. But
Bino misses it. Chandler Kramer,
Yuli,
good old Yuli,
oh man,
Mr. Power Disc Golf Academy himself.
hey, I mean, we've got to see these guys pick it up because what you're seeing is, the tour card coming. What I'm assuming is the next season.
Hmm.
They're talking about having a 10-15 rating. You're starting to see 10-20s are barely making the cut at this point.
Yeah.
So
And at what point may that potentially progress to require like maybe a little bit more? I mean,
who knows? We'll have to see. Um, so I did want to talk briefly about who I thought was kind of the biggest surprise. I thought Kevin Jones doing well was a big surprise, but not the biggest surprise. I want to talk about Zach Arlinghouse.
crushed it.
He absolutely crushed it with the top 10 finish. He played way above his rating. I think we'll take a quick look here. But he proceeded, so we don't know the first round rating anymore, but
If we're just counting the others, he
went 10-22, 10-45, and 10-58. So he improved each round,
right.
playing some excellent golf and finishing in solo seventh, beating several awesome players to get to the spot. I mean, Zach, I've heard his name. He's been around these tournaments for a little bit, but
Mhm.
but this was kind of a little of a breakout for him at the beginning of the year.
Definitely.
He
This is one that, as I was pulling stats, you were getting ready to go ahead and put him on there, and then I was pulling stats on streaks throughout the tournament,
Yeah.
and he had the longest birdie streak out of anybody,
Oh.
which came during round 4 to
dude,
put him in that 7th place. He between hole 6 and 15 of round 4, he went 10 under par.
gosh, that's incredible. That is absolutely insane, and that just shows like his capabilities to do that on a very difficult Innova course.
Oh yeah, and the second place was Luke Sampson and Clint Calvin at 8 under at some point during the tournament. They had an 8 under stretch, so nobody else was shooting. Like 2 strokes is a lot for a stretch.
Yes, it is. Um, yeah, I mean, even the 8 under stretches are impressive, but to go even 2 holes further in the last day to climb up the cards and to finish in the top 10 is an absolutely amazing result for Zach. And I'm excited to see what he does the rest of the year. His rating is below that 10-15. So it'll be interesting to see how the season plays out.
He can push forward, hit that level.
I'm expecting it from him
I
after
mean,
this performance.
but barring he can play really good in the woods and not fall into some hole of having a terrible round that's within the two standard deviations that land on your like rating, like he could definitely do it. 7 points
Absolutely.
is not a lot. I mean, it is a lot at that level compared to I'm like an 870 rated player. Yeah, I've got a lot of like that. Yeah, you can definitely boost it pretty quickly there. But like that 1008 level is there's not a lot better you can do.
Right, right.
It takes a lot of work. So
And so we'll have to see more tournaments like this from him. But I have high expectations now for Zach.
who do you have low or who are you disappointed by?
Besides Kevin Jones?
And besides AD,
Okay. So I think this one you could go with some of the guys that missed the cut, but there wasn't anybody short of maybe Clemens and Robinson that were overly surprising. But for me, Simon was actually my biggest disappointment. He had a great start to the season, shooting the hot round at the All-Star weekend,
mm-hmm.
and even in this tournament, he started out super strong.
Started 7 under par.
Yeah, started 7 under par,
Was
and
he lead card or feature? He
he
was
was lead.
feature. Was it lead?
I think he went from feature to lead. Here we can bump this right here. Yeah, so he was on lead card going into round two
That makes sense.
with Barella, Proctor, and
Right,
Withers.
because he had the PDGA lower number compared to the other people that shot a similar round.
Yeah, so Jones and Humphreys both shot 53s along with Simon, but Simon having that 4-digit PDGA number propelled him to the lead card. So we don't know the rating on that one anymore, but
But he was 7 under. Next round it was 6 under, and there were some hotter rounds that at it was the Millennium course was the first round, and the Innova course was the second and fourth round, right?
correct.
6 under round two, 3 under round three, and then 3 over round four.
Yeah, that 3 over was a 962 rated round, which, I mean, our friend Brady has shot a higher rated round than that.
That's kind of a big deal.
Well, we should tell Brady
We
that.
should tell him. He said 962.
962.
Wow.
So,
Hey, if you're out there, you're playing disc golf, and you think I'll never be as good as Simon, you can be better than Simon at that. You can be better than Simon at his worst.
you can. Our friend Brady proved it.
He did. He shot 981 at that was the the Ice Bowl.
The Knoxville Ice Bowl, yeah.
What a time! So
What a bagger.
I would agree. Simon definitely disappointing there after like expecting a lot based on like what you said, All-Star first round. We'll see what he can do. He ended up 47th, so there's a lot to be desired there. Trey, your Lone Star boys.
Yeah, so I mean I think this is a big storyline for the season that we need to keep up with throughout. Like, can the Lone Star Discs and the Lone Star Boys keep up
Mm-hmm.
this year, throwing discs that have been, manufactured in the last 3 years?
Right.
It's like it's a big deal. They're doing something that hasn't been really done since Prodigy came about, and even Prodigy allowed mixed bags when they got big
Right.
for a little bit at least. But Emerson Keith and Nico Lacastro in particular both played very well this tournament.
They did.
Emerson Keith finishing in 8th and Nico finishing in 17th. So
Yep.
they had two top 20 finishers. Chandler Kramer missed the cut, which was unfortunate. But they had those two guys in particular shoot extremely well. And so, I mean, I think it's showing that Lone Star Discs, they're legit.
Definitely. On a similar wave, I mean, Clash definitely had a good time with James Proctor shooting really hot early on. I mean, obviously, both of these people are mixed bag throwers and not
Right.
exclusive to Clash. It's nice. I mean, I feel like you kind of have to play in that realm on the early portion of like your manufacturing career as a company.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, Scott Withers played an incredible round. I reached out to Scott and I'm curious about Clash Discs because I haven't got to throw a ton, but what I have thrown has been really good. And I asked him what he was really enjoying, and he said that the cookie, the berry, and the ginger are his three most thrown discs right
Okay.
now. And so it was exciting to hear from him on that and to see him use Clash discs really well. He was actually throwing the berry a ton on the course.
There you
I
go.
noticed that when I was watching some Joe Mez coverage. But yeah, so
Let's I went alongside the top 20 on the MPO and FPO. I was just curious on a very like basic level
yeah,
on scoring. Like first place would get you 20 points, second place would get you 19 points, and so
okay,
on and
yeah,
so
yeah,
down. I took everybody and their sponsors on the MPO and FPO field to see who the winners were, like
okay.
comparatively on each division. Discraft goes and takes it on the MPO division. They had Ezra in second.
Shout out to Ezra, by the way.
The hot round, I believe
Not
it
the
was.
hot round. Matt Bell.
Oh, it just so early on. He was done. Ezra was done when they were on like hole seven. It feels like
And you kept on seeing him on the leaderboard, and even the commentators like, "Oh, he doesn't really matter.
he finished a long time ago.
this is gonna get passed up." And man, that score held the test of time. It got him a second place finish.
Yeah. So you had Ezra there at number two.
Yep.
You had Paul at number six, Arlinghouse at number seven, Corey Ellis at number eight, Barella there at number eight as well, and then down the list you had Gossage at number 20. And so Discraft, given my structure, was first by a long shot. Innova being the closest with, I believe, Calvin and Girthy. I believe that was everybody. Oh, and then Clint Calvin there at 17th.
Mhm.
And then on the FPO side, Innova absolutely took it by storm with a grouping of, what is it, five players in the top 10. Henna Blomroos at number four, Haley King at number six, Jessica Weiss at seven, Owen Scoggins at eight, and Jennifer Allen at nine. Alongside, I think that was everybody. That is correct. That's MVP. I don't know why I didn't put that on there. Oh wait, that's
Hmm.
so. I think the note I put on this one is it's hard to like say like this is the big brands competing against each other. You can't really put them up against like how did Clash do or Lone Star compared to these people just because you don't have the quantity of players and you definitely don't have the money to sign the Pauls, the Rickies, and who knows well, how would this have gone if Ricky was here?
Oh man, I almost forgot about that. That's so when Ricky comes back, we're just gonna add a wrinkle of excitement there.
Definitely. So that's a quick one there. I'm going to run through a few other stats that we didn't mention already. I was going to say the round one wind. I was going to talk about that. The PDGA ratings falling off, particularly with the wind on round one at the Millennium Course. If you compare round one to round three, which were both played at the Millennium Course, round one averaged across the entire field 0.27 under par for all 18 holes combined. Round three was like 10 times better at 2.5 under par.
I mean, that's over two strokes easier for the entire field.
That's a lot. That's no small beans right there.
Oh no, not at all.
So it's hard to say if the Innova course or the Millennium course is necessarily harder because of the varying wind over the tournament. I think if you had some calm conditions, you could come up to like a better conclusion. But the Millennium course definitely played very hard overall. The hardest hole throughout the entire weekend. It was hole 9 at the Millennium course on round one, which I believe was a relatively long par four, but there were zero birdies during the round, and so it played like 0.6 over par.
That is a great disc golf hole.
So, I mean, given the wind and everything, it makes sense. I believe the same hole definitely didn't play as hard, just a little bit down the line, but
Right.
definitely a tough one. If I look right here, 2 rounds later, it was the 11th hardest hole overall as well, but it played a half stroke almost easier, point 0.4
Wow. Okay.
easier the following round at that course.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting looking at the hole by hole stats. The easiest hole is hole 10 at the end of a course, round four. But it's hard to say what the easiest hole is when there's a cut line because you're going to have the better players playing. And so you're scored apart and leaving out people that aren't playing, understandably. They get auto scored at a 7 when it comes down to them being on the PDGA website, even though it doesn't obviously count towards the rating. And so that's hard because technically you had better players. You didn't have anybody that was playing really tough. We'll see. My favorite stat, though, Matty O
Matty-O.
takes a 54 hole long bogey free streak between hole 14 round 1 and finishing it on hole 13 round 4, where then hole 14 round 4 he takes his first bogey in 3 rounds. So 3 whole rounds without a bogey.
That is unreal.
And it was a 375-foot par 3, hole 13. Arm throws out of bounds, went up and down for his bogey to end the streak.
Man, dang.
Just a few
That-
holes left in the tournament.
3 rounds, 3 full rounds of bogey-free golf.
That's nuts.
Matteo is the epitome of consistency.
He's the man. The second place, just as a reference, we talked about this with the birdie streak, but second place was Eagle at 44 holes, bogey free. So a 10-hole difference in that. Props to Matteo for that one.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about Jomez.
Yeah, so the big thing that I wanted to talk about was the FPO coverage. I, again, got to watch some of the FPO as well as the MPO on Jomez, and the biggest takeaway I had was the commentary.
Mm-hmm.
Erica Stinchcomb and Madison Walker are the two that are doing the commentary, and they did a fantastic job.
Really, I haven't watched like any of the Jomez coverage.
I was thoroughly impressed. I think Jomez did a great job picking these two out because they just felt super comfortable in the booth. They had a lot of good chemistry.
Right.
They covered the holes really well. Stinchcomb brought a lot of good commentary, a lot of good on the holes specifically on how to play them. And Walker did a really good job of just kind of like hyping up the golfers, talking about their game, knowing their game really well, and being able to explain like why they are so good. And so I was really impressed with that.
They
And-
finally, I know they had mentioned in their intro that they were going to do same day FPO. Ran into some understandable kinks. I think the first 2 days they ended up having to push to the next day, the very next morning, and then proceeded the last 2 rounds. I think posted same day, but in the evening.
yeah.
They
So
signed off.
so they were on West Coast. So
I
Where
wonder
we-
how they do that. Like,
we were getting it at 1 a.m.,
right,
which is 10 p.m. over
right.
there. So
Props to Jomez for doing
oh,
that.
absolutely.
That's unreal.
Hey, did you how much Jomez did you get to watch?
I haven't watched hardly any outside of watching a few shots back, watching the Barella hit, like catching a couple holes that I particularly cared about.
Okay. So we'll talk about this next week then when you've had a chance to look at it. But I want to ask, they've changed the graphics significantly.
Right. I wrote one of these comments right here based on comments I was looking at
Okay.
after watching. I watched like 9 holes of one and then saw the leaderboard. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, yes. So that is the big thing that I was interested in on your thoughts.
If you're listening, just as a reference to what we're talking about, historically speaking, Jomez has done their mid card and end of 9 leaderboards based on every player through that hole,
Yes.
not based on live scoring. Like if I'm on hole 9 but Trey's already finished, they're going to show Trey through 9, not Trey through 18. That's what it used to be. And now, and I say they got ripped. I don't mean this in a
They
they're
got
trying. They did, but it's like Jomez does so much good for disc golf. I hate saying it because it makes it sound like Jomez screwed up. Jomez is like trying new things out, like they should. They're pioneers of like this, like,
absolutely.
and so they got railed in the comments. Honestly, like they just tons of comments that all said the exact same thing. Bring back the leaderboard the way it used to be. I have no clue what this means, which is a testament to the amount of people that watch only post produced.
Yeah, I think so. For live coverage, it obviously makes sense to have a live leaderboard
Mm-hmm.
because that's what we're dealing with. That's what we're seeing, and that's what all sports do. If you watch ball golf, it's done the same exact way.
Exactly. Which tell me how you feel about this before I go.
Yeah.
Tell me how you feel. Which one do you prefer?
I prefer live coverage, but for post-produced coverage, it makes more sense because the folks that are watching post-produced coverage have probably not always watched the live coverage,
Mhm.
and so it almost feels like a spoiler to know how people on other cards are doing ahead of time.
Right.
And so I think it makes a lot more sense to do the up to date for what hole everybody is on. Like
Yeah.
keep it the way that it was in the past
Right.
for post produce specifically.
Yeah. The only reason I say slightly disagree, I like actually really do love that type of leaderboard. I think if you want, and maybe this is catching your target audience are people that can't watch it live. We'll watch both
Yeah.
because we love disc golf. But like your traditional person is probably off and about. Let's call it like a dad that is off taking care of their family, enjoying the weekend and whatnot, can't watch live coverage. Whereas we're early in our marriages, probably have time. Our wives are wonderful and watch it a little bit with us.
Hey, I'm gonna shout out my wife Rachel real quick because she knows disc golfers.
Way
She
better than my wife.
she was talking about the Gannon drama
Really?
earlier, and she texted me and was like, which company is Gannon having drama with? While she was at work. She has a student who likes disc golf, and she wanted to talk to him about it. And
That's
so,
funny. So, but on the leaderboard, I really did like the live leaderboard, like the true leaderboard at that moment in time, because I think it gives a more real feel, like to what's going through the player's mind in that moment. Because the player doesn't really like, maybe they do if they're paying way more attention than most, but like the player's like, okay, this is where this person is. This is what I need to do to catch up with this player. If they're like, they were 2 strokes behind me, now they're 6 strokes ahead of me, and I've got 11 holes to play. What holes do I think I can birdie? It I enjoy seeing the mind of a player in real time rather than a player that just assumes, oh, yep, this player was only doing this good at this point in time.
yeah, I think that I think that's where lives in live coverage,
Right.
and that's why I love live coverage because of that. I
Definitely.
think for the post produced, I'm just going to disagree with you and
Yeah,
say,
and I think that's fair. I think I'm in the minority here by far.
oh, you are for sure.
Yeah. So, and the comment section definitely tells me that. And so I won't mind. It's not something I share this massive, huge opinion on, but it
Yeah.
is what it is. So,
Did you see this Maria Oliva tweet?
not until I was reading through the notes right here.
Okay, yeah. So I found this on Reddit. Um, this was a deleted tweet that someone thankfully grabbed a screenshot for us. And it's talking about course etiquette. And Maria, I think, was frustrated. I think she was probably on the bag for Luke Sampson, her boyfriend,
Mm-hmm.
and said this: watching a card of 4 seasoned MPO players and their caddies talk and laugh out loud while people line up their tee shots and line up their putts was wild. I've never seen players and their caddies be that disrespectful toward their card mates for a full 18 holes. Throw up emoji.
I don't blame her.
And
That comes from a wildly amateur perspective, and I expect amateurs to play and act like amateurs, people that obviously don't take it entirely seriously.
but I think there is a level even in, MA3 to MA2. Like there is a certain level even in those, like on those levels of course etiquette.
Oh yeah,
Like you're not supposed to be screaming at your shots. You're not supposed to be
swearing.
cursing, walking in front of people while they're throwing.
Yeah.
Like I mean, these are things that have happened to me when I'm on the course. I've had to call courtesy violations. I've had to ask people to move.
I've never called a courtesy violation, even though I've definitely wanted to. Just you get some people that maybe it's because they're playing in MA3, which we play in. They just act like they don't know how to. I say be professional, like I don't know, handle themselves, have etiquette.
Courteous is like there's a common courtesy when you're competing at any level that should be assumed, in my opinion. And I mean, you can take to the comments to disagree with me, but I think there is just like with a sport like disc golf, it's an individual sport. There's a lot of focus on your game, and distractions need to be minimized in those kinds of sports because it just promotes a higher level of play.
Yeah, I agree completely, and I think you and I are the kind of people who, in general, take that in, even in our casual rounds. It's something that like we really care about.
Oh, for sure. Um, and we won't speculate on who exactly Mario is talking about. There was some speculation on the Reddit post, but I think what's more important here is to talk about the importance of course etiquette. And I think we are in agreement here that
Totally.
it's very important and it's important for the growth of the sport. A level of professionalism is what's going to take disc golf to the next level. And so that's what we want to see.
Definitely. Let's round it out. We've got two more sections.
They're the
Well,
classics.
tell me about the new discs.
Yeah. So I'm actually going to save my favorite one. I've got them in the wrong order here, but I'm going to save the best one for last. But we'll go. So Castoplast, that today released the Stig, or had the Stig approved. I'm probably saying that wrong.
Speak.
Maybe Stieg, something like that. Um, and it appears that based on some rim width and looking at some of the stats on it, the description, it's going to be a 6 to 7 speed, slow fairway driver. Looks to be fairly neutral in flight. It could be wrong there, but that's based on the numbers that I was looking at. That's what they're coming out with. That's not really something they have in their lineup, is that slow of a disc as far as the driver lineup goes. So
Right.
that seems like a good addition for them. And then Infinite Discs has the Raze, RAZE, coming out, and it looks to be a putter, maybe 2 to 3 speed, and it actually looks to be a flat top putter. So we'll see what that one looks like. And now the company themselves, Lone Star Discs.
God, I love
So
it.
they've got,
They were already on like your like they were on the up and up in like Trey's mind,
oh yeah,
which they are in general, but like Trey in particular has really loved them.
yeah. I think what they're doing is incredible. It's
So what you've
super
got
fun
here
they're
is
doing. And so I think I may have to just like try to work out a deal with them on the second one. But the first one is the Harrier, and it looks to be a domey driver, about 12 to 13 speed, very wide rim, probably a bomber.
Mhm.
But then I might be getting a new putter because they are coming out with the Lone Star Discs Benny.
If you don't know, Trey's name is not Trey.
Nope, Trey's nickname. I'm the third, so my real first name is Benny. So I have to put the disc that's my namesake, right?
Exactly.
I have to.
It's a requirement.
So Lone Star.
That's one you can definitely get your hands on out of all the ones we talked about.
Oh yeah, so Lone Star. If you're hearing this or if you see this,
You can sponsor a little old Benny
we
with the
could
Benny.
we could do a little custom Benny discs.
So eventually, Lone Star. This will be like the hottest putter on the market. You know, they'll be making the Benjis with the Bennies.
Hey, Benny's in the Benny.
So those are some fun discs. But what's more fun than fun discs?
Our favorite segment. Well, maybe not my favorite segment because I'm missing Thomas's top five. I'm missing
Not
it,
gonna
man.
have one this week. There's been so much going on. All right, camera cut off, overheated, whatever. Foshi's fun and games. We've got a feature card.
So you're on the Pro Tour, Thomas. Just picture it.
2 years from now, not a chance.
Next year, man. We're gonna get there.
I'll be 10-15 rated for a tour card.
Oh, absolutely. No, but we make it. We get on that tour card. We get to go on the Pro Tour.
All right,
You're on the feature card. Round one, Jomez.
all right.
Who's playing with you?
So I get to go
And-
first since you went first last time.
Yeah, absolutely. You get to go first. But so you're gonna be picking three other golfers. And I'll make this caveat. It doesn't have to be guys on the Pro Tour.
Okay. It could just be anybody in general.
Anybody in general.
I'll more than likely stick with people on the pro tour. Actually, maybe not.
And on this one we won't snake it. We'll just go back and forth.
That's fair. I think number one, I'm gonna go. You might hate me for this. I'm gonna take Simon.
Hey, I mean, I don't know why I would hate you for that. Because I wanted to pick him.
Yeah, because MVP, and you're an MVP guy. So Simon, yeah, Simon would be a ton of fun to play with. I think he's like an easy choice of like a really easygoing guy that can throw some super fun shots. Like he plays fun golf.
Absolutely. And I am thankful that you did not take this guy from me because there's no way that I'm having a feature card without Chris Dickerson.
Oh,
I've already played with the man. He is a joy to be around, super fun to play with. He was super helpful, and I've even got to see him play on the Pro Tour, like up and close and personal when Jackson and I went to
yeah.
USDGC, and there's no one else. Like he has to be the number one pick for me.
There
So
you go. All right.
I'm playing with Chris.
All right. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with Ricky. I love watching Ricky because I think he's just so consistent. And I would love, given like he's got like a maybe a more unique putting style. I feel like and even his like shot itself is very like pulled in. I think he has like a lot of wrist action. I'd be very interested to sit and like talk to Ricky about his form.
Yeah, I think that's a I think that's a great choice. Obviously, one of the top three players in the world right now.
Right.
Um, so I mean, I can't discredit you for that. He was not on my list,
Right.
but good for you. I'm gonna go. So now I'm just trying. I got my guy who is going to absolutely kill it, and is it going to be fun to be around? Now I got to get a little bit of energy,
Right.
and I'm sticking with the Tennessee boys. I'm going Zach Melton.
Oh, is it the chemistry like
The
that?
chemistry is through the
Like
roof
the
right
ultimate
now,
team, and
and I just want to congratulate Zach Melton. I don't know if you saw this. He is now the captain
I
of
did.
Dynamic
I
Discs.
did see that.
So you're seeing more companies go with this team captain, Yuli and Sexton. It's maybe not necessarily your best player, though Yuli and Sexton and Zach are all great players, but it's the best ambassador for your company, the best ambassador for your brand, and like a guy who really does like embody teamwork and team leadership. And so
Yeah.
shout out to Zach Melton for becoming the team captain of Dynamic Discs, and shout out to Zach Melton for being the second person on my card.
All right. I go back and forth between several. I'm going to have at least one honorable mention.
Oh yeah.
But
Hey, it's a card of five. Why
it's a
not?
card of five. We'll do
It's a
it
card
for
of five.
I'm going to pick Calvin Heimberg.
Oh, Vinny.
Call Vinny. I think he's like Ricky might be more like, okay, what can I do in like my approach shots? What can I maybe do in my drive? Even though I think his form is a little bit different than what might be comfortable for me. But Vinny and putting, I mean, Vinny's got a little bit of a taller putt. I think I kind of fit. I mean, I obviously I have a huge tall putt, but like I think I could get a lot from talking to Vinny, and he's just super fun, like super funny dude.
Oh, for sure. Now, so I've got my Tennessee boys with me. I've I've got to add a little bit of wild energy, and this might come to a shock to you, but give me Nico Lacastro.
We want a little controversy.
I want to call that man on a clock violation.
It'd be hilarious. Imagine I picked Nico, get the Calvin and the Nico. That'd be like some like hot boiling blood right there.
Hey, but in a serious note, Nico is one of the most dynamic players in disc golf.
He's been playing for a long
For a
time.
long time. He had the second lowest PDGA rating at this last tournament.
Really.
Just behind Simon. But he's been playing for a long time. He's been playing at an extremely high level for a long time. And I think after watching some like GK Pro skins with him, it seems like he like would actually be a lot of fun to play with.
Yeah.
And so I'm throwing Nico on there with Chris and Zach.
All right. I'm going for a little chemistry as well. And this one comes from a slightly different angle. I'm going the GK Pro Luke Humphreys.
Okay, that's an excellent pick. I feel like I missed that.
I particularly that was going to be my honorable mention. I wanted to pair Calvin and Luke Humphreys because I feel like their energy together on a card is
Oh,
nuts.
yeah. I mean, you throw Simon in there. Simon's good with anybody.
Right.
And to round mine out, I'm a Tennessee fan, but I would say roll tide for Matty O.
Yeah. Honestly, Matty O would be super fun to play with.
I'm taking Matty O with my last one. So I've got Nico, I've got Matty O, I've got Chris, I've got Zach.
And I've got the good old Simon Lizotte, Ricky Wysocki, Calvin Heimberg, big old Vinny Pizza Boy, and I've got Luke Humphreys.
So we'll throw this in a poll on Instagram, and
We'll see which card you would prefer, or feel free to comment your own. Who would you
yeah,
have in a card of four,
yeah, pick your
or
card of five.
collectively four other disc golfers?
I almost picked you.
Oh, I'm so fun. So we appreciate you guys for watching. We're coming up on about an hour. I guess more like 50 minutes. We had a little bit of a wait time as the camera came down, but we appreciate you guys for watching. We're excited for the season.
Yeah, we've got a break in the season, and then we'll be back at Waco
Here in
2 weeks.
Is it 2 weeks? 2 weeks without disc golf and then Waco?
No, so 1 week without disc golf and then Waco. So we'll only have withdrawals for 1 week.
God. So we'll keep pushing forward. We'll make it happen. Appreciate you guys for watching. See
Absolutely.
you guys in the next one. All right.
Thanks, guys.